Sorry for those of you looking for a rant-free review, because you're not going to find one here. In fact, we're kicking off this review with a personal message from me to a certain demographic of the gaming community that's pissed me off for months. If you're a die-hard PlayStation fan who was extremely excited to play the Order 1886, calling coordinated media bias on anybody who were critical or just skeptical of the game, don't watch this review. Seriously, just fucking spare me the effort. It's abundantly apparent to me that people like you will not listen to a word anybody has to say. No matter what reasons I present to back up my opinion, you'll declare this game to be great without question because it has good graphics and is a PlayStation exclusive, even though you know fully well if this game was on the Xbox, you wouldn't be saying a fucking thing like that. That and you'll call me an Xbox fanboy or a hater of the game that I own on a system that I own. Oh, and also, look who the fuck was right all along. Let's be clear right now, the Order 1886 is not a bad game. In fact, I derived some enjoyment from the experience. However, the Order 1886 fully embodies many of the worst aspects of the AAA gaming market. From an aesthetic standpoint, the Order 1886 is great. The story is good, it looks fantastic, it sounds great, and the universe is full of potential. But as a game, the Order 1886 falls flat on its ass. The Order 1886 follows the story of Sir Galahad, part of the Knights of the Round Table. The Order find themselves dealing with rebels who are suspected to be collaborating with the half-breeds, who are essentially werewolves. The story of the Order is pretty damn solid, featuring some good writing and fantastic voice acting. And it's presented well too. The cutscenes look great and occur seamlessly. Most of the characters you'll encounter throughout the game are interesting, as they all serve a purpose narrative-wise, moving the plot forward. It was predictable at times, but compared to the shit we've had to endure for the past year, the Order 1886 holds up well in this regard, even if the ending is a sequel-baiting piece of shit. The Order 1886 is the best looking game on consoles, hands down, no question about it. Every visual element is extremely detailed, from the characters to the weapons and environments, and coupled with the excellent art design and a meticulously created steampunk Victorian London, the Order 1886 never fails to amaze visually, just like its absolutely phenomenal soundtrack. Unfortunately, concessions were clearly made by the developer to achieve this level of visual fidelity, and it fucking shows. The Order 1886 runs at 30 FPS, which is factually suboptimal. The developers claimed it was to achieve a cinematic feel, but you guys already know that's a lie. Black bars also obscure half of the fucking screen, but that was for artistic reasons, of course, totally not a bullshit cop-out. The universe of the Order is brimming with potential. I absolutely love the setting and the alternate history slant of the game. I won't spoil anything for you, but there are a lot of ties between the world of the Order and real-world people and events. I just would say expanded on the lore more here, but this is a solid starting point for the universe. Unfortunately, all of this is not what makes a game great. Solid presentation, good graphics, and a universe are all fine and dandy, but great games have great gameplay. As a third-person shooter, the Order 1886 is very average, and the fantastic presentation can't mask this. Mechanically, combat is extremely repetitive, far too fucking easy, and completely uninspired. The Order 1886 ticks all of the boxes for third-person shooter tropes. Mandatory stealth sections in which detection equals instant death? Check. A stupid mark and execute system that requires no skill to pull off? You bet your ass that's it. One button melee attacks activate 5-second over-the-top takedown animations? You better believe it. Branching paths or any level of non-linearity? Fuck that noise. Follow the narrow path like a good little chimp. You have to experience the game our way. All this game is missing is a fucking turret section. There's so little variety to the firefights in the Order as well. You'll rarely find yourself actually fighting the half-breeds outside of fucking QTEs, which means most of the enemies you'll encounter in the game fall under the category of generic grunt, which makes the game become incredibly easy. You'll occasionally encounter a heavily armored foe with a shotgun or a flamethrower, but outside of those enemies, you'll rarely get killed. The same level of stagnation is seen with the arsenal. Sure, there are a few weapons that are interesting, but for every unique weapon that allows you to fire lightning at your foes, there are 3 times as many generic weapons, with such a strong universe to draw inspiration from. It's surprising how boring most of the weaponry is. Revolvers, machine pistols, marksman rifles, and assault rifles make up the bulk of the arsenal. Never seen that before! The Order is plagued with fucking quick-time events. I'm so sick of developers implementing quick-time events in their games. It feels so lazy and ham-fisted. Very rarely are quick time events handled well, and the Order serves as a masterclass on how to fuck them up. All of the boss fights, if you can even call them that, are QTEs. The enemies are fucking QTE, and most of the cutscenes feature a few QTEs each. The game feels restrictively fucking linear on all fronts. Cutscenes interrupt the gameplay constantly, relinquishing control from you all the time, and once you're given control, you'll only be traveling through narrow choke points. There are far too many cutscenes in this game to begin with, and even when you're able to play, you don't feel in control. Now before you say, Fringy, Uncharted 2 and Max Payne 3 did the same thing and you still think those games are great, you're a no good hypocrite. Let me explain how those games did linear well. Firstly, while both of those games featured a lot of cutscenes and were cinematic, the real meat of the game was still found in the gameplay. Secondly, the gameplay could stand out on its own in both of those games as they each featured unique mechanics. The Order has nothing like that. All the gameplay mechanics in the Order have been handled just as well or better elsewhere. It's a cover-based shooter in the truest sense of the word. That doesn't mean you can't have fun in combat, because you can, but mere competency shouldn't be applauded. Now, when the game was announced to be single-player only affair, I didn't really give a shit. I'm absolutely fine with single-player games. In fact, many of my favorite games are single-player focused. However, the Order 1886 is short. Way too fucking short. On normal, I managed to complete the game in just over 5 hours. 5 fucking hours! I paid full price for a 5-hour game. I really want to hammer this home. I really want to hammer this point home because this is important. For a retail price game, you are getting 5 hours of content, and almost half of that time is dedicated to cutscenes, not actual gameplay. And the gameplay presented is so fucking linear, you may as well not be playing the game anyway. I guess Ready at Dawn were really striving for that cinematic feel. Any shorter and you'd be mistaken for thinking this game is a fucking movie. 5 hours! What the fuck were they thinking? There's virtually no replay value in the Order. There's no new game plus, no challenges, no time trials, nothing. It's just the campaign. And when the campaign is nearly half unskippable cutscenes, with some of the chapters in the game being exclusively comprised of cutscenes, why the fuck would anybody burden themselves with playing through the campaign again? And you know what? I have a hard time recommending a game that was created by a team more than willing to lie right to your face as though you were 5 years old. Ready at Dawn are some of the biggest damage controlling fucks in the entire industry. It's clear to me these guys were more concerned with graphics and cutscenes than developing a game with exciting open-ended or innovative gameplay. Not every game has to be innovative, and not every game has to be as open-ended or as long as something as Deus Ex. However, every game needs to prove to the consumer that it is a justifiable purchase, whether that be through sheer content and replayability, or unique and refined gameplay. But the Order achieves none of these things. It's as generic as third-person shooters come, and the length is just the icing on the cake of shit. The Order 1886 is not a system seller, nor is it a game worth buying, especially not for full price with such a small amount of content. Is it worth playing at some stage? Sure, but as a retail game, the Order is simply not good enough or long enough to justify its asking price. And all of these issues stem from a fundamentally flawed mindset held by the creators of the game. Ultimately, the Order 1886 is so concerned with being a movie that it forgets it's actually a video game.